Is the Miami Heat quietly setting up one of the most underrated power moves in the entire league? Most people are focused on who's leaving, who's arriving, who's demanding trades, but the real story happening inside that organization right now is something nobody's talking about loudly enough, and it involves two names, Bam Adebayo and Kel'el Ware. To understand what's really going on, you need to look at the Miami Heat from a different angle, not the Heat you see in the headlines. The Heat behind the scenes, in the conversations that never reach the cameras, in the decisions that only make sense months after everything has already happened. When the Jimmy Butler situation finally reached its breaking point, the Heat didn't fall apart. They didn't panic. They didn't rush into a blockbuster trade or blow up the roster overnight. Instead, they did something very Pat Riley. They leaned into what they already had. And what they had right in the middle of everything was Bam Adebayo. Now, Bam has always been one of those players who gets respected, but maybe not always celebrated the way he deserves. He's not the guy who drops 50 on you and ends up on every highlight reel the next morning. He's the guy who makes everything around him work, the defensive anchor, the pick and roll engine, the one who sets the tone in the locker room before the cameras even turn on. And with Butler gone, that role expanded in a way that most people still haven't fully processed. Bam is no longer just the best player on the Heat. He is the identity of the franchise right now. Every possession, every defensive scheme, every conversation about where this team is going starts and ends with him. That's a different kind of pressure, not just performing at an all-star level. Performing at an all-star level while simultaneously becoming the emotional backbone of a team in transition. That's two jobs at the price of one, and the Heat are betting everything that Bam can handle both at the same time. But here's where the story gets genuinely interesting, because there's a variable that changes everything, a variable named Kel'el Ware. Kel'el Ware was the Heat's first-round pick in the 2024 draft. Long, athletic, with defensive instincts that are genuinely rare for a player his age. When Miami made that pick, the question everyone asked was the same one. How does this work next to Bam Adebayo? Two big men, similar roles, competing for the same space on the same roster. On paper, it looked like a problem waiting to happen. A friction point the team would have to manage carefully, except the friction never came. And the reason it never came is one of the most interesting stories the NBA has produced this season. What happened between Bam and Ware during the offseason was not what anyone expected. Instead of the veteran protecting his territory and the rookie finding his own path separately, Bam made a choice. A deliberate personal choice that had nothing to do with media obligations or team building exercises. He decided to invest in Kel'el Ware directly. Bam revealed that the two of them built a strong connection during the offseason, with Ware showing up to train with him at 6 in the morning, 6 a.m., on their own time, no coaches watching, no cameras rolling, no front office requirement pushing them together, just a veteran and a rookie putting in work before the sun is fully up. And then Bam went public with something that I think got overlooked by a lot of people. He said he wants Ware on the floor with him. He said he has the impression that Ware listens to him, that he's built up enough credit with the young player for the message to actually land. He wasn't just complimenting a teammate, he was making a statement about what he sees in Ware and what he wants for him going forward. Hold on to that statement, because it's more important than it looks on the surface. In this league, at the level Bam operates, veterans don't freely hand out that kind of public endorsement. Minutes are money. Playing time is leverage. Statistics are contracts. The fact that Bam is actively advocating for a player who technically competes with him for floor time is not something you see every day. And when you combine it with the 6 a.m. workouts and the intentional mentorship happening behind the scenes, a much bigger picture starts to come into focus. Because when you watch Adebayo and Ware actually play together, the results back up everything Bam has been saying. The defensive communication between them is already at a level that makes no logical sense for a veteran and a rookie in their first season together. The way they read each other's positioning, the way they cover space in the paint, the way the Heat's entire defensive structure becomes more coherent when both of them share the floor. That's not coincidence. That's what 6 a.m. sessions look like when they translate into real games. But here's the layer that nobody is really digging into. And this is where the story gets complicated. What does this dynamic actually mean for the long-term picture of this franchise? Because the Heat have never been an organization that operates on just one level. Every significant move that comes out of that building has layers to it. Riley doesn't let things develop by accident when he could be shaping them with purpose. And when a franchise cornerstone starts this visibly investing in the development of the player who could eventually replace him at his position, you have to ask whether that's spontaneous leadership or whether it's being quietly guided by a plan that hasn't been announced yet. Because here's what's really happening in Miami. The true story behind what looks like a secret agreement isn't about betrayal from outside. It's not a hidden trade request or a back-channel negotiation with another team. The truth is quieter than that, and in some ways more unsettling. What the Heat are building is a long-term leadership transition, and the mechanism they're using to build it is Bam Adebayo's own loyalty. His genuine investment in Kel'el Ware's development, his public declarations about wanting Ware on the floor, his willingness to sacrifice individual spotlight for the growth of a younger player, all of it is being woven into the foundation of a future that the franchise needs, even if that future means gradually redefining what Bam's role looks like within it. The Heat need Ware to develop fast. The Butler era is over. The roster is in transition. The organization needs to know as quickly as possible whether Ware is the cornerstone they drafted him to be. And the fastest way to accelerate that development is to put him next to the best teacher available, which means next to Bam every single day, absorbing everything that veteran knowledge has to offer. So the Heat need Bam to mentor Ware, and Bam, to his enormous credit, is doing it fully and without reservation. But that process comes with a cost that nobody is talking about openly. Every time Bam advocates for Ware to get more minutes, he's potentially advocating for fewer of his own. Every time he positions himself as the mentor rather than the undisputed star, he's writing a narrative that will define this chapter of his career. And narratives, once they start moving, are very hard to reverse. Think about the scenario playing out over the next 2 or 3 years. Ware keeps developing at the rate he's developing. He becomes a genuine force on both ends of the floor. He starts becoming the name that people associate with the future of the Heat. And Bam, who built all of that, who sacrificed statistics and spotlight to give Ware the room he needed to grow, where does Bam land in that story? Is he the star, or is he the architect who built something bigger than himself and ended up slightly outside the frame when people take the final photo? That's the real tension at the center of everything happening in Miami right now. Not Bam against his teammates, not Bam against the front office, but Bam against the narrative that the franchise itself is quietly constructing around him. His loyalty to the Heat project is being used, consciously or not, to shape a future where his own role may look very different from what it looks like today. The move isn't coming from outside. There's no trade, no dramatic press conference, no leaked report changing the equation. It's happening from within, quietly, 6 a.m. at a time. And by the time the full shape of it is visible to everyone watching, the groundwork will already have been laid so completely that it will feel like it was always inevitable. Bam Adebayo might be the most loyal player on this roster, and that loyalty, that genuine investment in Kel'el Ware and in the next chapter of this organization might be the exact thing that redefines his own role in a way that hasn't fully landed yet for most people on the outside looking in. The question that makes this whole story impossible to resolve cleanly is whether Bam sees it, whether he understands that each of those 6 a.m. sessions, each public endorsement, each time he opens up space for Ware to succeed, he's writing a chapter that may not have him as the central figure by the end. And if he does see it, if he's making this choice with full awareness of what it means, then what he's doing is one of the most remarkable examples of selfless leadership this league has seen in years. This dynamic between Adebayo and Ware is genuinely one of the most fascinating things happening in the NBA right now. Do you think Bam's focus on developing Ware could end up reshaping his own future with the Heat in ways we're not fully seeing yet? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story is still being written, and the next chapter might surprise a lot of people who think they already know how it ends.